and welcome to GenFriends. We're so excited to have you viewing us tonight. We have got a really special show. Before we get to that, I want to introduce my panel. We've got Melissa Barker, our archive lady. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. So glad to be here.
Good to see you. We've got Mary Roddy from MKR Genealogy. Hi, Mary.
Hi there. Great to be here.
Good to see you from San Francisco.
Sort of.
The Golden Gate Bridge looks beautiful behind you. Laura Hedgecock is here from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hi, Laura.
Hi, and I too am happy to be here.
And you're from your son's bedroom. See the soccer in the back?
I see it.
We're giving you a national tour. And then
it's the only cleaned up room in my house.
Oh, I gotcha. I hear you. Yeah. Dan Earl, our family history guy, is with us tonight. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
So good to have you here. Bernice Bennett is here. Hi, Bernice from Geniebroots.
Hello, everyone.
Always good to see you. And Shelley Murphy is here with us tonight. She's one of our wonderful panelists, but Shelly, our family tree girl, is actually going to lead us in a discussion tonight about substitutes for that 1890 census that we all are looking for and we go to find. And unless you're one of those lucky people that it still survives for your state, and I am not one of those people, you've got this 10-year gap. Is anybody on the panel, do you have one for your state? Is anybody lucky enough? No?
I think
Mary.
Mary. I saw Mary.
I saw Mary.
So we don't have a federal census, but Washington got statehood in 1889. So they were like constantly counting noses. Are there enough of us yet? Are there enough of us yet? And so we have a lot of state censuses around that time.
The state census. Yes.
Well, as you can see,
so it's 1889.
Yeah,
so right
that's
within a
very
year.
cool.
Yeah.
The rest of us are apparently not so lucky. So.
But white people didn't live in Washington.
Oh, at that time. Okay. All right. We'll give you a pass for that one then. So Shelly has graciously offered to help us with understanding what records we can use. There's a lot of things that we can use to help us answer the same questions that would be on that census. So I'm going to just turn it over to Shelly, and she's going to talk to us, and I think she's going to give us a quiz.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Who said that?
I said that.
Yeah.
Because I still have jet lag, but let's see.
We know we all have challenges. And so we're going to talk about the 1890 census that still exists first. And those are the states listed, and you can see exactly where I pulled that record from. Mm-hmm. One of the big things for me when I do classes and things is to make sure you have the guide for the numerators. That didn't burn up. You can get that online. Go get the PDF and understand for the 1890 census or whatever census year that you have, that you're researching. Mm-hmm. So I have a question for the panel here tonight. So between 1880 and 1890 to 1900, what consistently was still happening regardless of where you research? And it doesn't matter if it includes these states that are represented where there's a portion of the 1890 census. So Dan, I'm going to start with you.
Uh-oh. So what was happening between 1880 and 1900 essentially?
Yes, 20-year period.
That 20-year period. I'm going to say that there was a lot of immigration into the United States.
Okay, one. Mary?
I have to keep going. Oh, good. Okay. I was like, I got to keep going. There's other panelists, Shelly.
I'm going.
Okay.
Mary Roddy, what else is going on? And I'm saying a 20-year period for a reason. So go ahead.
Okay, well, all right, people were being born and people were dying.
Yes, thank you. Bernice?
People were having information in the newspapers.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Melissa? Oh, you're on mute, dear.
People were still having to pay their taxes.
Oh, she took mine.
Yeah, she took mine too.
Okay, Laura?
People were going to court.
Cheri?
They were buying land and selling land.
Listen to
They were
this.
still
All right, we're
looking.
done. You guys described right there what was still happening normally. So if you got a burned courthouse, or you got a census that only comes around every 10 years, and I'm not talking about a state census, right? Because that actually is a good thing if you have that in between a state census to go through. But people were still being born, dying, getting married. They're still buying and selling land. So you can follow the money, because not everything was held like at a courthouse. And then again, you don't know who had to have copies. You know, the county might have had to make a copy to send to another office, or maybe the state required something. So don't be fearful of the burned counties, because there still could be information there that you could piece together. So focusing in on the 1890 census, what I did was I found a questionnaire. And the questionnaire from the guide was about, I'm going to have to move you guys out of my way here. So what I've done is taken portions of the questionnaire so you can see it. So meet the 1890 census questionnaire. So you see it's got the typical district, enumerator, address, you know, the county, who initials on what day, the enumerator, and then you see A through E. And what it's telling you is the number of dwellings, the number of families that are in that dwelling house, the number of persons, the number of family in order of visitation by the enumerator, and the number of persons in this family. So think about, you have 1880, you're good to go. Anything that happened between 1880 and 1890, you should be able to substitute. Because right now, if your folks are in the same area, and you know that because you know what? You looked at 1900, or you looked at records that happened and occurred, not the census, of course, but that occurred just like we said in the beginning, births, deaths, marriages, buying and selling of land, and so forth. So we can identify the family in 1890.
Shelley, Mary had her hand up.
Yes,
Okay.
I was just starting to type. I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so, okay, I'm like, feel like such a dork that I've
Don't
never
feel
really
like
even
that.
looked at this page before. But this is a family schedule,
Yes.
like the Irish census, where it's not the whole community, the street on the census. This is this guy's
Everybody
house.
in the house.
That is, man. Oh, and
Everyone in the house. So I would recommend that you go download this form, and as an exercise, which I'm going to put Maggie students on it, you're going to have to answer these questions, and you're going to have to identify, and don't tell people that I'm telling y'all this, but the people that
Nobody will know.
This is
nobody's
recorded.
going to know, but I want
Just
them to
amongst us.
rebuild. I want them to rebuild the census. So you're getting the top of the questionnaire right here.
okay,
And think about it. Every person in that house had to have this filled out. And I'm not done.
oh, wait.
Hang on, Mary's still.
Why did
Mary's
they
excited.
only do this? I mean, so 1880 and 1900 don't look like this. They're not
No.
household censuses.
This is a
Why
questionnaire, dear.
why did they go?
Who knows?
Isn't that frustrating?
Back
Because
to
this
the
would have
old
been
format.
so wonderful to have had this.
Well, you're not. Wait a minute. I'm going to tell you. I want folks to think here is for folks to stop worrying about it not being there, because I think it's not missing anyway. It might not be at the archives or wherever
I
they hold
gotcha.
the
I
Census
gotcha.
Bureau. I want you to know the questions that were going to be asked
Mm-hmm.
on the census, and I'm telling you, you ain't missing anything.
There's other places to
And I'm
find it.
saying that I don't want people, especially new researchers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's no 1890. So I have a 20-year span, but I can also say that for us as experienced researchers.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go to the next page. Okay, so now you saw the A through E, and then you're going to see questions 1 through 6. So you got the banner. So this is questions 1 through 6. Give me their name in full, middle initial, and the surname Was this person a soldier, sailor, or Marine, so on? What is their relationship to the head of the family? So you guys should be clocking in your head right now what you thought was missing. Well, you know if your ancestor was in the Civil War. Come on. Think about it. And you also know if they're white, black. Well, some of us could question some of that. I'm just saying, depending on who you're researching, but you can identify a race. And they have additional categories on here as well. And you know the sex of the individual that you're looking at in a household. Okay? Think about just your soldiers alone. Okay, let's go to the next. That's
Shelley,
the first set of questions. Yeah.
Melissa's got a question.
I'm sorry, and I'm like Mary. You know, I feel like I'm a beginning genealogist. Hang on a minute. What is quadroon and octoroon?
I was wondering the
Quadroons.
same.
Cheri, you want to answer or you want me to?
You can answer. But I was
Okay.
thinking, Shelley, when I saw this because I don't have, this might be an answer to a question that I'm looking for in my family history. So this would have been nice to have, but I need to find other records to see if I can find it there, because I do have someone who may have been labeled one of these, but I don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
And labeled is a good way of saying it.
Right.
So quadroon. So you know you got mulatto to the left.
Right.
Pretty much that could say white and black mix, right? So quadroon, what does quad stand for?
4.
4.
So there's
4.
4 mixtures.
Quarter.
Got it?
Yeah.
But you're going to have one of them's going to be African.
Okay.
And then take the next one is octoroon. How many is that?
10.
8.
Oh, 8. I'm sorry, 8.
8.
8.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see me or not.
Yeah.
'cause I
Thinking
can't see
October,
you.
the 10th
I can
month.
see. We can see you. We can see you,
10th
Shelley.
month. Okay. That means there's 10 mixtures in there. And of course,
Okay.
Chinese, Japanese, or Indian. So it's the mixtures. And if someone else, Bernice or someone else has a more formal definition than that, but that's how I understand quadroon. You know, there's 4 mixtures in there. Let's see, white, black, Indian, and maybe I have Turkish.
So I think octoroon actually is 1/8.
And it is. It goes,
Yeah.
1/8.
1/8
African.
African American.
So you're telling
Yeah.
me that these
Black.
enumerators are asking these people
Yeah.
on the street
Yeah.
whether or not they're quadroon or octoroon, and they know this?
yeah.
Yeah, some of them.
Okay.
Some will know that. Yes. So for the rest of that information, go ask our girlfriend named Google. So let me continue on. Otherwise, we won't get through this. So
I love
again,
it.
my whole point here is to show you, here's the questions. You can answer probably just about all of these. Think about it, okay? Because you've got 1880, and you got 1900. So how can you utilize the information you know from those 2 censuses to come back to the middle and get 1890? So there's 1 through 6. Here is 7 through 15. So I'm showing you the document, and then here's the questions. What was their age in 1890? Were they married, single, widowed, divorced? Was a person married within the last year? That should even trigger something. If it said yes, what does that mean?
You're going to have
I'll
a
look for a record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Everything should, tee off to say, I should go look for that. How many children was the person a mother of? And then how many of the children are living? You can figure that out from 1880 to 1900. Because if anybody died, they're not on the census. You're going to go look for death records or check for any mortality schedules of that county. So the person that you're dealing with, where were they born? What's their the birthplace of the father and their mother? How many years have they been in the United States? And is that person naturalized? You can do that. Think about it. Use the 1880, use the 1900, and other evidence, supporting evidence to answer 7 through 15. Now we're going to look at 16 through 25, right? And look at the note down there at the bottom. See the inquiries numbered 26 through 30. So we'll see that on the next page. Those inquiries must be made concerning each family and each farm that they visited. So everybody that's in the household has to respond. They get their own sheets of these questions. Here's 16 to 25 broken out. Were they naturalized? What's their occupation? How many months were they unemployed? Did they attend school within the last year? Can they read or write? You're going to know that because 1880 is going to tell you that. And so is 1900. Can the person speak English? If not, what language? What if you saw another language on a census record? You're immediately going to say, well, wait a minute, how'd that happen? I thought they were born somewhere else. Well, these should all be clues to about that family you're looking at. Is the person suffering from any acute chronic disease? How long have they been affected with it? That could also tee off and say, wait a minute, is there like a medical institution? Maybe this was TB time. Where did they send the folks that contracted TB? Are they defected of the mind, sight, hearing, so on and so forth? Is the person a prisoner, convict, homeless child, or pauper? Those are other schedules that might not have got burned up, but you know what? They got some in the 1880 census, right? So you can flip back to the 1880. And then depending on the status from those questions 22, 23, and 24, they're going to indicate if there is any other information about that person, which would tie to a special schedule. Okay? That makes sense? I'm going to go back here. See 22, the chronic disease, 23, defective in the mind, and 24 was the convict.
So did 1880 have the same question about chronic diseases?
They had the questions about the prisoners and convict, and I don't have the other slides up because I did address that, and when I did this as a presentation, I kept linking back with the 1880 and the 1900s. So,
Sure.
I think they had the deaf, dumb, blind, idiotic.
Yeah, they had and that's what it was called.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the acute chronic disease.
No, it was deaf, blind, and something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving along. So now I'm going to the second page. I just took you through the first page of the questionnaire of the 1890 census. And the whole theme of when I did this was, again, that it's really not missing, because I think we could piece this together. So
hang on a second, Laura, did you have a question, or has it answered?
It got answered.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Shelley.
You got it? Okay, because I can't see you guys because my screen is
okay.
full. Okay, so the following questions are coming from page 2, and it's located at the end of each family's questionnaire sheet. So each person in that household responded, and it also reflected if they were on a farm, which is telling the government also, there's going to be another schedule or linked to some other schedule if they've got a farm. So, was the home the family lived in hired, or was it owned by the head or another member of the family? So you can see what they're trying to get grasp on. Who's in there? Are they there as renters, or are they there because one of the family members or the parents or whoever owned the property? And so that kind of goes on, and it's kind of the same question right here that you're seeing. There's 5 of them here, and it keeps finding out, oh, was there a mortgage also? That tells you another thing you got to go look at. There might not be a courthouse that's burned. You might be able to find mortgages and at least find out who they got the loan from and any other information. And then again, were you a renter within this family, or did the head of the household own it, or someone else? Okay, so that's the gist. Plus, they were asking what was the post office address. So if your family's still in the same area from 1880 to 1900, you're going to know the post office address. Okay, All right. Let's go to the next page. We're on page 2. So we got this, you can see 6 through 10, I think it is. And there's the question. Second page, population and social statistics. Christian name in full, surname. We already had that, you know, from the front side of the page. So now we're answering these. They got the same soldier question. They want the relationship of the head of the household. Again, we're hitting everybody. We've got the same race question. Age at the nearest birthday. Their marital status, if they're single, married, widowed, or divorced. And if they were married between June 1, 1880 and May 31, 1890. And a mother of how many children, and a number of these children living, and
Shelley?
what was that person's place of birth? Yes.
Is that, is the marriage question right? Because all the other ones they asked, were you married within the last year? You got 10 years there.
Here, but they put a date in there.
I know, but you've got 10 years in there.
Then I got a mistake. That should be 1889.
Yeah.
June 1, 1889.
Good catch,
Yeah.
Mary.
Okay. Okay.
Good catch. Good catch. She's paying attention. So look at the question. Yeah, is that 1880 or 1889?
It's 1889.
Yeah.
Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. So you caught it. Okay, so we're going to skip down because we just covered this. That's questions 1 through 10. First page had 25 questions.
Goodness. This is why
Okay.
they didn't copy them. It was so big. They didn't.
Well, and again, each household member
Yeah.
had the page. You
Wow.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where
So
the other census, there's one
Right.
document.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder if this played into the fact that they decided not to make copies, and that's why they all
I don't
were
know.
destroyed. It just makes you wonder.
Yeah. So now we're looking at 11 through 21. You're seeing that portion, and we're on page 2. And it's almost a repeat of what's on the front, which it should be, because they're just getting through the household. And again, you can see I got the 1880 instead of 1889.
Mm-hmm.
Got it? So you got unemployed now within that year. So again, place of father's birth, place of mother's. You should know that from your 1880 and prior censuses. You should know where the parents, or, you know, who they're referencing to, where they come from, at least the state. And if you looked at 1900, you would probably also know. How many years in the United States? Okay, that should tell you something. If they put 3 years on there, and this is done, say, May of 1890, then somebody came in. You're going to have to look for more resources regarding somebody immigrating in. The occupation, the months unemployed, can they read or write, and then what language this individual is speaking.
Laura?
And so the only comment is a lot of people use these censuses to go back and try to figure out, okay, what was the next generation?
Yes.
I think the only time this wouldn't work great was when the person was so young in 1900 that they weren't on the 1880 census.
Correct. But
Because you wouldn't have the other, you know, you wouldn't have anything to triangulate with.
Mm-hmm.
correct. But you
There's
as
still other
a good
records.
researcher should also know who was born, died, married, buying and selling land, just like you called out earlier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Be
I
able
hear
to
you.
back in.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay, now we're getting 22 to 30 questions. Suffering from the acute disease, just like earlier on page 1. Defective, they're all the same. There's the house questions down to who's got the mortgage, who owns it. Is it the head of the household, another member? Are you renting? You know, if the head of the household is a farmer, is the farm which he cultivates hired or owned by a member of a family? So they're the same questions leading back to who's in that household. That's questions 22 through 30. Now, tell me, I'm stopped sharing my screen. What's missing? What are you missing? You guys could run off the top of your head how you could go find that in-between information. I would say stop worrying about the 1890 census and stay in that box and keep digging. I would use those questions myself, researching.
I see what you're saying.
To answer those questions and try to rebuild it. And that was what I named the presentation, was rebuilding the 1890s, because it just makes the time frame shorter. So now I'm at every 10 years instead of saying, okay, 1880, oh my God, 1900. That's 20 years. Let's break it down. And then if you have a state census, think about that. If you had a state census in between there, you could build even more. I say you're not missing any information. I really don't. You should be, and if you are, you should be able to come up with other supporting evidence.
Yeah, Mary.
And basically rebuild it. Yes, Mary.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the problem, Shelley, and you tell me the strategy here. I'm going to challenge you.
Okay. No, good.
Okay, so my great-grandparents.
Uh-oh, do I need to write this down?
So I got the 1900 census.
Okay.
And it said, they're in California. It says she's given birth to 11 children and 6 are alive.
Okay.
1910 census says she's given birth to 7 and 7 are still alive.
Okay.
Yep.
So is it telling you that 3 died?
No, I mean in 1910, nobody's died. In 1900, 5 have died. And I'm in a location where I got no birth certificates because they didn't have records. So those are the ones that I really want to know about. Who are those missing kids? And they were married in 1881. So I'm not, I mean, I appreciate your point that there is a lot of it, but there still are going to be some.
It would be nice that it would be nice to have, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes I think with those children, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Shelley. I think sometimes it's the person who answers the question just to know about the earlier children that died.
Who knows? And I know of one. I do have a death record for a 7-month-old. And so I know of one. I suspect that there were some that maybe were too young to even be named.
And they might not have died. Could any of those kids aged out of the household by 1910? Or were they all under that they would be, you know,
I can
not
find
an adult going out?
Right. I can find, it's, and I just don't know did she really lose 5?
Right.
I mean, which is what 1900 would lead you to believe. 1910 would believe she lost none. So I know she lost at least 1. So there's a conflict between those that the 1890 might help to resolve, although she probably lost some of them in the 1890s that would have.
Who knows
even if I had the 1890,
and you
that
don't
wouldn't help.
know unless you're able to find something regarding their death.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's another thing, and I see your message, Bernice. There's another thing is knowing that community where your people are at. Was there any, I'm going to say it like this, pandemics that were going on, any of the TV going on, anything that was happening, even military-wise, did the militia or something, because we're talking about back in 1890 now, and what else was going on in that local community and at the state level that could have changed something. And I think it's worth looking at it. You know? And again, I just don't want people to shy away, and they do that with burn counties as well. And just think a little differently. Bernice?
I just wanted to say that, I mentioned newspapers.
Yes.
Well, my ancestors managed to make it in the newspapers between 1880 and 1900, which means that I have names, actual dates, events, and things that were taking place in that community. And so we cannot overlook the fact that the newspaper,
Are key.
that's a great substitute for
Yes.
us, the
Yes.
newspapers.
I
agree.
Yeah, me
I
too.
agree.
What I like is having those questions so that you know what was being asked, and then you can look at it and go, okay, I don't have the census, but what other record would give me this answer? And then I could
That's
start.
what I did in the
Yeah,
presentation.
and that's exactly
Yeah.
what other record would give me the answer besides the other two census records. What else, Dan?
Melissa first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
We're going to put Dan on the great pause right now until Melissa is done. And I do want to make one comment, Melissa.
Yes.
All those additional 1880 other schedules that will give you information possibly to fill in for 1890, because there's 6 or 7 additional schedules that people probably don't even look at.
That's
most
true.
of.
Yeah. That's very
Go ahead,
true.
Melissa.
My answer to the missing 1890 census is go to an archives.
Absolutely. No, that's
Exactly.
like the newspaper. Absolutely.
Right. You know, in my archives, let me tell you something. And, you know, I talk about my archives a lot, and I think people think I work at this gigantuan of archives. And, you know, to me it is, but it's a small archives compared to everything else. But let me tell you something. If my small archives has what it has, I can only imagine what other archives have.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly the same things, but I'm talking about when you walk into an archives, I mean, and when I say archives, people think, okay, I have to find something that has on the building and it says archives. No, wherever the building is, it has the records, okay? When you go into a place, ask, where are the records?
A historical society.
Right.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
museum, a historical
Library.
society, a college library, an archives.
Right.
Anyway, so you're there. Ask about ledger books. Say, what kind of ledger books do you have? Ask about government warrants. Does anybody know what a government warrant is? Those are checks that were paid, that were written to paid bills. I just indexed a set of warrants from my county dating in 1871 when we began as a county.
Wow.
You think these were paying for things like the utilities or, you know, basic stuff. No, no, no. This is where they paid the paupers.
Ah, yes.
This is where they paid the people to survey the county, the new county. This is where they paid people to chop wood for the schools. This, you know, I mean, it's that kind of stuff. And this stuff is, for the most part, not online, not microfilmed, you know, and I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. Let me tell you something. Call these archives, email these archives. They're working.
Yeah.
They are either working from home or they're working in their buildings without allowing the public to come in. And we are going to see at the end of this pandemic, we're going to see an explosion of index records, digitized records. Records have been processed and ready for genealogists.
I'm ready.
I'm talking to I talk to archivists every day, and we are able now, we have this time that we're not having to help patrons or do other work that we would be normally doing if we were open.
Those pesky patrons.
We love them. We love them. But it's giving us the opportunity to dig into our collections and get stuff ready for researchers. But just go to an archive. If you want to fill in that gap, go to an archive.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Dan,
okay, Dan.
Okay. All right. So
he's talking to you, Cheri.
No. I've got a question for you, Shelly. So when we're going back and we're constructing the information from other sources, are we okay to lie on it just like our ancestors did to the census person? Like, can we just like make stuff up? Like, just make our ancestor magically 3 years younger than they were in the 1880 census, and
Not
then
unless
16
you follow
years younger.
the rule of 3.
Okay.
And the rule of 3 actually comes from James Dent Walker, who is one of the gentlemen that started AUGS, Afro-American Historical Genealogical Society, 1977. And he worked at the National Archives in D.C. And he started this group because he basically was saying, you know what, we're not seeing black people come in here like the white people were coming in here. So there was a small group that started this national chapter, and then there's like 35 chapters across the United States. Well, anyway, what the rule of 3 said was, if you're telling me something, this is a father and a son, give me 3 records or 3 pieces of evidence to support that. So if you're going to lie, I want you to bring 3 pieces of evidence to support that lie. Because if not, no.
So if I have 3 pieces of evidence that tell me something else, can I
Real
just put whatever
evidence,
on
not
it and phone it
data.
out? Because that way I can just ignore it.
No, you want to put as much accurate information that you can support. Because again, remember, my mind operates in a timeline, and I like chronological order, and I like steps and processes coming from the business world. And having to report to the feds all the time. And again, like military, I got a form. And so, you have to account for that. And it should be the same thing within our research. We should be able to logically walk through that person's life at everything that was happening to them and around them. That's why it's so important to know that community, and things like that. So.
Shelley, I was thinking as you were showing us all the different pages that everybody in the family had to fill out a sheet.
Yes.
Well, then hopefully that information was all consistent. And so you didn't get, in one record, hopefully the father didn't say, no, we're renting this property. And then the son didn't say, no, we own this property. And the daughter said something else. So
think about it.
Hopefully it was more consistent.
Answering for the children.
And it could be, but if they had older kids, and you knew they were older, it might help you say, hey, I think this information is correct because they're all, if they really did answer it, they're all answering it the same way. And we're not getting so many different stories from different people. So I thought that was really interesting that they had everybody answer.
I did too, because I don't know of that in other census.
No,
you just get the names, but everybody filled out, and that's actually a front and back. The form is online.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting.
Download it. I just cut it so I could read it and people could see it on the screen. But it's 2 pages, or front and back. And so when I hit to the 1880, say tree-wise, and it's really important with my research that I'm doing for the University of Virginia, because I'm trying to find descendants of someone that was enslaved, or I'm looking for descendants of the slave owner family. So I have to stay in my little chronological order type thing. And I gotta get there, and it was like, I can't believe I gotta hit this 1890 now, or I'm just jumping to 1900.
Yeah.
And I actually, in the presentation, did a case, and I took someone that was born 1838, and he died in 1916. So that's what made me hop to 1900. I also went, like Mary brought out about 1910. I also hopped in there to fill in information from 1910 as something that I might have known to help fill in to 1890, because that person stayed in the same place. But I didn't know until I grabbed military records and all these other records.
Right.
I just think it's a great exercise that people can do for themselves, or you and your genealogy buddy, and help realize that, well, we're okay with not having 1890. I would love to have it.
Wouldn't we all? Yes.
I would love to have it already done, but also being able to answer those questions.
It's a good exercise to go and look and see what we can find.
Simple, but they could be challenging.
Sure.
Laura. It might not work for everybody.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. I have one line in my family, the Savoys, which they took opportunities to say something different on every single census record. So I'm thinking it's probably a good thing that it's missing, because it would probably all be lies anyway. And these substitutes might be better sources.
Yeah. Well, and you need to seek out those. And are you guys related? Did y'all verify that you got the same, these strange ancestors? I'm still looking for William Michael Murphy, but I think he's an immaculate conception. So nothing about him anywhere, nothing.
Another record group I was thinking about too are your directory, especially if you live in a big city. See, most of mine are just small town farmers, and they didn't really have too much. Sometimes they would go out and make a directory with these people, but they're mostly in town because they wanted to advertise businesses and things, and so but directories can be a really good source.
Church records too.
Yeah, there's so many.
tracking that land record.
There's so many
Tracking
different
the land,
records,
the
right?
schedules.
Right.
Yeah, of course, your vital statistics records, utilize the other censuses. And also, what if there's, even with real estate transactions or even not real estate, but the transferring of land. All of my family that was in Michigan, that land was going back and forth within the family. Mama and daddy to the kids back to mama and dad. And it just went back and forth. And this was in Eaton County and Oceana County. And it was like, what were they doing? And they just kept moving the land, taking ownership. And I think it had a link something to money.
It probably did. Taxes or something.
Yeah, something happened.
Dan, you wanted to say something about directory? Sorry, Shelley.
Oh, yeah. Just that using directory, by there not being an 1890 census, it really forced me to use directories to piece together an ancestor of mine that had left Maryland and started working in a silver mine in Colorado, which is where he was in 1880. And then by 1900, he's living in Colorado, and he's made good, and he owns a grocery store, and there, that 20-year chunk, well, I could fill in information. There was a story there that I was missing, and using directories allowed me to figure out exactly when he left the silver fields and moved to Denver, and helped me to piece in a lot of information. And so seeing all these differences, I'm kind of thinking that maybe there was a conspiracy, and whoever had to transcribe all this information was like, nope, and just threw a cigarette on it.
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
There's way too much information.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. They just, because it was too much. We just cannot copy this.
Yep, can't copy it. Let's just burn it.
Another thing that's key, and Bernice mentioned the newspapers and everything, but think of the local stories, the local historical type stories, and especially when you're talking about silver mines or coal mining, places like that where people went across the country, or going out west or whatever you want to call it. There could be books out there and resources and studies that were done. I think Bernice had a question too, Cheri.
Oh, sure. You're
no,
muted.
Not a question.
Oh,
just a comment about another record.
Uh-huh.
War pension files.
Oh, absolutely.
Those files are wonderful. And they can tell you, 1890, 1892, or what have you, they're given full stories.
Yes. Yeah. I bet you a Civil War pension file, Bernice, could answer just about every question.
Well, but remember, that's one of the questions on the questionnaire. Were you a soldier or military? Well, they have to include Navy because there's another set of records separate from your Army and this, that, and other on Navy. Excellent point.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take out one of my Civil War pension records, and I'm going to take that 1890 census, and I'm going to try to fill in all the blanks from that.
That's a great idea.
I'm going to do that.
That's really good. Now, the Union ones really give you a lot of information.
Yeah.
But the Confederate ones don't.
I got some pretty good
a whole nother piecing together.
Oh gosh, it's like, did you serve? Mine are from South Carolina, and did you serve?
Ones from Tennessee are really good.
Yeah, did you serve? Yeah, got a witness? Yeah, when did you get married? This is one of them. There's no proof in them. There's just
then you might have to use Dan's relatives way of doing
exactly.
things.
Absolutely. Mary, you said you've got a point.
Yeah, you could also look at cemetery records.
Sure.
I mean, that's going to tell you those people that died between, in that time frame. And church records too. I mean, some of those, if any of those babies of my, however many there were of my great-great-grandparents or great-grandparents, there might be baptism records.
And if they exist, school records.
Yes, school records. Yeah, I really like this because, like I said, we've got the questions, and then it's just an exercise in exhaustive research. What
what it is.
What kind of records can we find to answer these questions? So
and don't forget the state census too, because now you're just shortening that little time frame where now you've got that same household, and there was a state census in 1885.
Right.
1895. Michigan has a 1895 or 1894 census. So there you go.
Yeah.
Within 5 years, you've got information and connect it back to the 1880.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't forget voter registration.
Yes, voter registration.
1891.
Poll tax for some of us, our ancestors paid poll tax, and
That's
they put it in the newspaper.
That's
so
right.
that
There were petitions. People would sign a petition to get a road in some place, or any of those kind of things. Or sometimes our ancestors would be asked to take care of certain parts of a road that their lands were on, and that's all recorded as well. So there's so many things that we can look at. I mean, I can just sit there and make a list, go on, and just
that's a good point, because you know what, when you just said that, I just remembered that the house on M37, which was homestead property, they were putting the road through, and this is coming through Benzie County. The Davis land is there. And the road crew, the house caught on fire, and the road crew put the fire out basically and helped rebuild the house. But it was the road putting in M30, which is a highway. M37, and you know what? I have never looked for that.
Yeah,
I might find something.
You just might.
Well, they're identifying, and they're one of the first people of color that homesteaded in that county.
Right, and there's probably the whole list of people who worked on that
it's in
road.
Joyfield Township, and they were right there. Yeah. And I thought, I never looked up highway records. I got them for Albemarle County, Virginia.
Yeah.
Don't have them.
There's so many things out there, and I think sometimes we come across things accidentally. We don't realize those records are there. And a lot of that is doing what Melissa said too, is going to an archives, because that's the kind of record an archive would have a lot of times, of those kind of petitions and the road crew and those types of things would be in an archive. So sometimes you just don't know until you start looking, just
staying in that box.
And staying in the box. I have to stay in the box of counties because I've got so many people in the same county, so many surnames in the same county, that I never go to an archives just to look for one surname, because I'm finding like 10 surnames within the same county. And so I never know what I'm going to find.
Or how they connect.
Absolutely. So what a bunch of exciting ideas about the 18th.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Really good.
Yeah. My mind has just been,
Well, you start, that's what happened when I challenged myself. Because, we all stress about it and say we're missing that. We hear it about Bern counties is my next one. Because you have to think the same way.
You do have to think the same way.
What other records? Because we're only talking about what records were at the courthouse.
Exactly.
But what about those other offices? Did they have records?
Exactly. And did they come back? And did they come back and refile? Yeah. And a lot of people went back, and they'll say there's a Bern County, and people just go, oh, it's a Bern County. Can't look there. It's the same kind of thing. You have to.
I've written an article. I've written an article in a blog post a couple of days ago in my series I'm doing this month, but on a dry county, which is similar.
Oh, yeah.
You go to a county, and of course we equate dry county with alcohol, but it's where you go and someone tells you, those records don't exist anymore. You talk to
I'm not going to tell anybody what's waiting for me.
Talk to a librarian. I mean, and you could even talk to an archivist that may not be that knowledgeable of their records, and they say, well, those don't exist anymore, or they were thrown away, or
yes, exactly.
I never believe that because I have so many instances of where I have actually done the hard work and I have found these records. They may be in a building that's falling down and nobody's doing anything with them, but they're there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so don't believe it when they tell you, no.
We'll put that link to your post in this post. We'll do that.
Oh, that'd be good.
People some ideas. Well, guys, panel, this has been great. I hope that I know that I'm thinking about lots of different places that I can look, and I'm hoping that we've encouraged other people to do the same thing. And what would be really fun is that people will tell us what they found looking at other records that help them over that hump, as we call it, for the 1890 census being burned. And I don't want to hear it if you've got it in your I'm just kidding. I don't want to hear the comments, well, we have it all together for our county. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear how you overcame the hurdle.
Well, now don't tell anything to Maggie people because that's going to
Okay,
be
and
one
don't
of their,
tell anybody
one
to
of their
go to Maggie.
exercises. They're going to have to rebuild that 1890.
Should I put on this? If you're going to go to Maggie, don't watch this.
Don't go to track 1. Don't go to track 1 and don't watch this.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all these great ideas. And Shelly, thank you so much for coming and motivating us and challenging us to look at those questions and see where we can find those answers. We appreciated it a lot. That's
Who's next?
I've woken up from my my jet lag, and I'm wanting to go now and start researching. So thank you so much. Thanks everybody, and thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you next time on GenFriends. Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.